So hi guys, this is real. I'm here, I'm doing the YouTube stuff again. Decided to be less of a perfectionist. Decided to do the topic on shadow work, our first video on shadow work, which is about the way of being, you know, spiritual being, good and bad, dark or light, fun and I don't know, whatever, right? But it is that we're going to talk about the darker side of things to do with blocks and patterns and habits and walking through the fire and stuff. But I first of all wanted to say thank you for bringing that topic to me. There was other topics that were brought to me, but we'll get to that. I'm going to get to every single one, and I'm always once I've got through one batch, I'm going to put the question up again. What do you want to know about now? But the one that was occurring was a lot about blocks and stuff. But I want to thank you because it has sparked me and pushed me to write. I haven't started yet, I'll be honest with you, but there's no time limit. But it's definitely something that is very much the forefront of my brain, that I want to write a book. And I want to write a book on this stuff. I think I'm good at it. I like it. I enjoy it. And I think it's the part of spirituality that a lot of people are scared of and think is, I don't know, I'm like not how we're supposed to do spirituality, basically. And there's no rights and wrongs with spirituality. It's just about intentions. Shadow work is nothing to do with dark arts, dark magic, any of that jazz. So if you're here for that, wrong place to be. But if you're here thinking, oh my god, what is she talking about? I'm talking about from the mental, subconscious, doing the work on yourself, what self-love is, and how we move past the parts of ourselves that we dislike, move past the parts of other people that we dislike by going within ourselves, working out who we are in so many different aspects and walking through that fire, you know, cleansing our soul again, rebirthing ourselves. And as I'm learning just from being pregnant and reading up and just the thought of birth, it's definitely not something that is as beautiful as we're given as just that is. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Of course it's a beautiful thing. We bring life into the world, but it's fucking painful. Probably gonna really fucking hurt. I could have stitches. I could have a vagina that's gonna just collapse. Oh my god, like, So my point being is, birthing isn't just a beautiful experience. The outcome is obviously beautiful, but what you go through is a whole change, you know. So that's that metaphor for rebirth, from a self-love point of view, is going to be painful. And the quicker you get on board with that as being a reality, the quicker that section, because it's just a section, it's just a space, you move through it, and then you're into another space which is more euphoric or more honest or more peaceful or whatever. But you've got to go through that space. You can't miss this step. So the first topic we're talking about is shadow work. Like I said, I'll be doing lots and lots of different videos as we go along. Sometimes it might be more light-hearted than other ones. This one is a heavier video, so if you're someone who feels that you might be triggered, I suggest you turn off now. But I'm just giving suggestions. You don't have to take it all. And again, it's not a finished product. It's definitely a subject that cannot be done in one video and would need to be I'm just gonna have to keep coming back to it as a subject and my book. So thank you again for the inspiration, and yeah, hope you enjoy. So shadow work, what is shadow work? To someone who's come across my page who doesn't know me, what does it mean? I'm talking about that darker side of us, the darker aspects of ourselves. Sorry, I thought someone was walking in. The darker aspects of ourselves, the part of us that's literally just led by the ego. You can call it my ego, the ego. I try and encourage the ego, but I even slip on it myself and call it my ego some days. And those tend to be the days when it's, I'd like to say, most prevalent. So I wanted to share with you guys kind of, I don't want to say how-to steps, because everything, I should have said this at the beginning, but I'm going to try and lead with this on every video. This is a suggestion. It's a choice. It's a suggestion for you. It's let me try this. It's not gospel, it's not concrete, it's not the way you should do it. And if you don't do it this way, your other ways will not work, or you're dumbfound, or you're gonna be, that's it, you're done. Like if you don't use my technique, or you don't you don't resonate with what I'm saying. It's really important that you know that this is all about you. And this is just a suggestion. It's just a little helping hand. A lot of people are out here talking as if they are the next Jesus, or they were Jesus in another life, or, they've got this very patronizing and condescending way about them that isn't authentic to everyone being on their different journeys, everyone being in different places and spaces of time. There's so much around this, especially with trauma. Now that's the main thing that I recognize shadow work coming from. What your trauma is and what someone else's trauma is should never be compared. That's the first thing I learn later in my transition of doing darker work. And when I say darker work, it's the work on myself. It's not like I'm sitting here with a cauldron and doing spells against people. I'm not talking about that kind of work. So if you're here thinking or starting to feel like, what's she talking about? Nothing. I'm not talking about from the like witchery or magic point of view. I'm talking about like therapeutic, self-healing, self-love, ego, inner child, responsible adult, higher self, all of this combination of these things that make us who we are day to day. There is an aspect of darkness about us that is higher on some days or more at play at some days than others. So when we're, in a space of trauma, which is what I believe shadow work is, it's releasing or acknowledging or facing your trauma, right? It's hard. First of all, it's hard. And the worst thing you could do at the start for yourself is compare yourself. There's two words that I've said, could and compare. Could I use because my nanny taught me don't say should, because then that comes with an expectation, and that comes with believing that someone has to do something a certain way because you should do that. She say could, because then that gives room for mistake. Yeah, comparing yourself, we know this phrase, comparison is the thief of all joy. Yeah, so when we compare ourselves to someone else, say somebody got knocked over when they were 4 years old and, they were severely disabled. They don't remember the incident, but they've got so many fears now from traveling to, thingy. Or you can meet someone who gets knocked over at 4 years old and that's given them this whole zest for life because they overcome their disability that formed from that. And, they could be a real risk taker. But let's go with the person that is gone the way of being frightened of life. They don't need to compare themselves to the person that may have had a similar incident to them, who then had a zest for life from what they did. They're just different choices. That person is that person and you are you, or this person is this person. So shadow work, first of all, you must come out of a state of comparing. And the first time I kind of realised that I haven't really been a big comparer through my life. I've done it, we all do it. I was at drama school, for goodness sake. I definitely did it a lot then. But in my development of spiritual wise, I always check myself when I feel I'm comparing. And a lot of people can find me frustrating, as not necessarily clients, but friendships I've had, because I refuse to do that. And they want to do that because it's an attachment to the trauma. So when we compare ourselves to other people, we're straight away saying we're less than, we're there is something wrong. This isn't right. Even when we're comparing ourselves in a good way, comparison is just not needed, especially to do with anything to do with self-love and spirit, because it's all personal. It's all personal to you. So what someone else is doing has nothing to do with you. So when it comes to trauma and comparing your traumas, sharing your traumas is not comparing your traumas, by the way. So if you have someone who you talk to about your traumas, that's fine. That is all good. Like, don't worry about that. Do that shit. Get involved with that. You know, it's good to talk about our stuff. We'll get onto projection later. But I'm talking about comparing yourself, like feeling like, well, for instance, when the Me Too campaign came out, I was witnessing women of bravery. I was witnessing, you know, people that I feel like I want to stand with and stand for. And it wasn't until I saw someone talking about sort of sexual harassment and talking about what I considered at the time as minor expressions of sexual trauma, sexual harassment. You know, I didn't put those categories, I didn't put those things into the same thing as someone getting raped or someone getting molested as a child or anything. And I had gone through a very serious court case when I was a child to do with child pornography, and I had also I'd been sexually harassed many times, just walking down the street, being grabbed at carnival, someone just feeling entitled to my body because they like the look of it and they feel they're allowed to touch me because I'm their preference. I put all of those things in this box of, well, I wasn't raped, or I wasn't this, I wasn't that, and I was comparing my trauma, even though trauma is a hard word to accept, because you can be in trauma and be a victim, or be in trauma, know of your trauma and be a survivor. And it's hard sometimes in different parts of your trauma, what you've got going on for yourself. You're going to notice that I don't know if I'm a victim in this or a survivor in this. Oftentimes when we don't know, we are being victim to it, because if it's hurting us in a way where we're allowing it to rule and rule our life and make us continue in a pattern or a habit that we want to break or change, right? So I used to compare myself without even realizing I was comparing myself, because I had known clients and victims, survivors, should I say, as well, because there was people that I'd had that was very much supposed to be, you know, you have to go through the victimhood to come out a survivor. You can't just skip over things. And that's one of the things that's really important to know with shadow work. You can't just skip bits and be like, oh, okay, I don't want to do that bit, so I'm going to just go to the next stage. No, you need this so that you can excel in that. You could go on and do that and kid yourself, but you go to the next stage without doing the first stage, you're going to be back to square one in no time, and start causing yourself to have mental instabilities and balances and distrust in people and so many things, just because you're skipping the steps and just because that bit is really uncomfortable for you. So when we compare ourselves in trauma, the first step is to notice if we're doing that. So like I said, I noticed through the Me Too campaign that I had always downplayed trauma that I had been through, because I didn't think it was as important potentially as someone else's trauma, right? So that's the first thing I would say, is you need to understand if you are comparing yourself to anyone else's trauma, maybe someone in your family, maybe there's history repeating, which is what I call a curse. You know, maybe there is something that has been in the family, like every mother going back has been sexually abused or raped. Every female line, or every father in all the fathers in the line had been abusers of some kind. So something that's repeated through your ancestral history, the makeup, the DNA, the behavior, the learnt behavior, the nature and nurture at play within your family dynamic has always been the same, of very, very, very still singular lives and singular stories, but you're like, wow, that's played out, that's no real difference to mine. that's what my version of a curse is, and potentially a hex as well, depending on people's intentions around those times. So when you might be comparing in that way, you have to kind of start saying, right, I'm no longer carrying this forward, especially ancestrally. But even if it's not ancestrally, I don't want to continue this way forward. But where am I comparing myself to others with my trauma, so that you can get back to it being your personal trauma? So that's the first little bit I would touch on trauma, okay? So we're going to go into the next stage of what I think helps with shadow work. So the next part of shadow work that I believe needs addressing, these are all early stages stuff with shadow work. That's why I'm saying I'm doing a book, because this isn't just about it's complex. There's dynamics, there's psychology, there's the spirit, there's the feelings, the emotions. There's so much to this, but I'm trying to break down sort of probably the earlier stages of how to see what's happening, how to be an observer for yourself, because that's what's most important, is learning to be in it when you need to be. So when you're at your therapist or your healer and you're crying, you're releasing, letting go, you're in that trauma. And then there needs to be more times you'll find where you've got to be the observer. You've got to be witnessing what you're going through. You're witnessing your pattern, witnessing your behavior. So the reactions stop. So you start responding and finding solutions, opposed to reacting and creating more of the same to happen. So then we come into the victimhood stuff, which I find is a very important stage, a very much has to be gone through. You have to know what it feels like to be a victim in order to let go of being one. You have to know what it is to be a victim in order to relate to other people that have got victimhood that maybe piss you off and irritate you, like, oh, you're such a victim. But you might not be recognizing yourself when you're being a victim. Just because it doesn't look like that person's victimhood doesn't mean that there isn't victimhood playing out. To become a survivor, you've got to go through the fire. And there's lots of stages of going through the fire, but this is one of them that I think is important. So this is where people get uncomfortable usually, because no one wants to feel like a victim, because then you feel weak. When you feel weak, you feel like you're vulnerable, that you are at danger, you could be preyed upon. You know, there's a lot that comes with vulnerability that people don't like, and it's usually that I am making myself open to be preyed upon. So you need to come into your alignment of, what does my victimhood look like? And it's a process that could take a long time. So for me, I've learned what my victimhood looks like. And it can, when my victimhood kicks in, I think it's me being my strongest, when it's not. It's me being defensive. It's me being like, why is this happening to me again? Why is this same person turn up? Or why have I allowed for this behavior? And my victimhood has changed from before, not really ever, well, blaming myself but unaware. But now sometimes when you come in your spiritual journey, you get so much awareness and understanding that then you stop allowing yourself to be angry at a person, or angry at a situation, or angry at yourself even, or being super angry at yourself but not really people in the situation, because you understand their trauma, you understand why they're coming to the table with what they're coming to, right? So then you stop making people be accountable and responsible for themselves. As you guys know, I grew up in domestic violence, and it took me a long time to admit that I was still angry at my father. I'm no longer angry at him about certain things, but there's still anger maybe about other things. There's still anger about just certain things that I maybe missed out in my childhood. Certain things that maybe as an adult I'm not being able to experience because the relationship isn't what it could have been if there was an accountability from him as a father, right? So my victimhood used to be, I'm strong, I can do this by myself, don't need you, I'm independent, and I'm not angry at you, I'm just, whatever. It's that dismissing people was my way of coping through that. But what it wasn't, I'm thinking I'm being a strong survivor, and even to the outside world, they're telling me that as well. But actually, it's got no vulnerability in it, because it's just defense mode. It's put all my walls up, every imaginable steel, barbed wire, wrought iron gates are around me, like, do not come near me. And no one can really then get near me in order for me to progress and build better relationships and have better experiences, right? Because it's just like defense. That's a form of victimhood. That's a form of, yes, it's had its purpose. There's been times when that was needed, for sure, but it wasn't meant to be a behavior that lasted forever. So victimhood is really important to go through. So when I say victimhood, you need to cry, you need to be sad, you need to go to that inner child place, which is honest. I'm being the ego, kidding myself that I'm defending the inner child. But really all I'm doing is similar behavior really to what my dad had shown me, which is you got to fight in order to show your strength. And also it's the ego's version, not the responsible adult. Now, the responsible adult is something that I refer to as the higher self. The responsible adult is something that is definitely a part of the soul, the spirit, something bigger than us. And it knows what to do. It has all the answers. It's very in cahoots with the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, but you just got to tap in. And that can take work, effort, daily practice, discipline. It doesn't just come like that. So, sorry, I'm just waiting for someone to come, so I just don't want to just have to cut off. So you have to go into now a new dynamic of, okay, the victim in this was the child. Where this first behavior was learnt was within the childhood somewhere, right? Doesn't mean you was 1, 2, 3, 4. You could have been 13, or it could be a younger version of yourself. I have worked with people where they had no trauma until like their early adulthood. And they've had very lovely lives up until a point, and then the trauma happens. So it doesn't always have to be in a child, but most of the time it does come from a space of a young child. But I just wanted to make that clear again. Remember, suggestion. So if you feel like you've had no trauma until a certain point in your life that wasn't childlike, that's okay. You know, start from there. You start from your start point, and your start point will show up to you, where you'll have this memory and remembrance of where you sort of first learned this. I do that through meditation. I do that through my techniques of visualization. I do that through writing. But yeah, my main thing is visualization and meditation and going within into my heart space to work out these things. Memories come back like that. It's brilliant. It's like self-hypnosis. So if you don't go into those spaces, for your inner child, you will stay victim. You will be operating from the ego of protection and defense, depending on what your defense is. It's all different versions. It doesn't have to be like mine and be like ready for you. It could be very crybaby almost, or it could be very runs the minute confrontation kicks in. It could be a case where you'd rather cut people off altogether, not explain yourself, not say anything, and just go off the face of the earth. It could be so many different versions of these things, right? So that's the first thing. Where and how, what does your victim look like? And then getting to know your victim from an empathic space, from it, like you would a child, like, oh, this poor child is going through this. You need to do that with yourself. You have to go to that. So you have to be the victim. However long you want to stay in the victimhood is up to you. I don't suggest very long, but I suggest that you take some time to hold space for that part of you that was once a victim, that was actually once a part of something that wasn't deserving. Yeah. Then you start understanding, okay, what does my responsible adult look like? And that can be a real freak out space, you know. Now you got to take responsibility. And this is where I was coming into what you allow other people to do usually comes in at this stage. And you can stop wanting to be angry. So you kind of start letting people get away with things even more, even though the whole purpose of doing this is to build better relationships. But you're starting to understand trauma now. So when you see or you get told or shared someone else's trauma, you're coming from a place of empathy, because you've got so much for yourself that you want to give it out to the world. But you can't do it to the point that you're being disloyal or distrusting towards yourself. And what I mean by that is if somebody is constantly being manipulative, controlling, or, you know, certain habits that kind of come up for anybody who is massively empathic, or empathetic even. You don't just have to be an empath. You can just be someone who holds a very high amount of sensitivity towards anybody going through anything. But you also have the divine right, which I was taught by my lovely friend Lucy, to be angry. You're allowed to get angry about someone's treatment of you, but like I said, you're learning new responses and solutions opposed to reactions. So that moves me on to my last part just for now, because like I said, this isn't the be all and end all. This is just me opening you up to shadow work and how to move through blocks and things like that. Now you got to walk through the fire, right? You're walking through the fire already, but this fire is maybe it's a lot lengthier than you thought, you know, so you feel like you're burning and maybe in a really dark space, feeling very much isolated and off with people. Now, with the isolation period, it's very important to do what feels right. If it doesn't feel wrong to be isolated, stay isolated. There's a reason we hermit ourselves. There's a reason we take time for ourselves. But the minute you start getting those senses of, I'm supposed to be back in the world, I'm supposed to be more social, I want to be around my family more, I'm ready to confront that person, or anything that starts coming after that point, you must do it. It's the universe easing you back in. You know, as you remember, all of this is about coming back to yourself. So if you think of yourself on this side of the fire, you're desperate to know who you are. You're desperate to see your reflection again clearly. This fire is in the way almost of this mirror. So you're trying to get to the mirror, or you're trying to get to who that person is on the other side. And as you're going through this fireplace, it's just intense. Everything is flooding in, coming in, the heat, you know, like think of like walking through a fire, like what it would do to the body. It's gonna consume. I would say fire and fire signs are very consuming. And so when you're in that energy of feeling consumed by your own thoughts, your own history, your own trauma, you've got to have space where the universe starts saying, okay, cool. You need to have breaks within this. You can't just, yes, we're proud of you and that the universe is saying, I'm proud of you, I'm supporting you, I'm here with you. But we're not going to now go into a new habit of being obsessed and consumed by things that then, you know, this is our past, this is our history. So then you've got to start facing the present. And this starts getting hard because the present is brand new, or the present you want. Think of it, it's like a present, but it's unknown. What's in that box? What's in that shiny box? Like, I want to rip it open, but what if it doesn't look like how I want it to? Or what if I'm not ready for it? And all these sort of things. So what we do is we start staying in the fire or feeling stuck. And I find that that's more in line with those that were saying, how do I deal with blocks? Blocks is often like a stagnation of like more of the same, and us wanting to go forward, but also fearing going forward. So we just stay still. What's the best thing to do? When in doubt, do nothing, right? So we start doing nothing, but we still got all of the stuff flooding in, and we can still see the present, but we're just here stuck. So the suggestion is that you've gone through this space of learning who your victim is, and the new version of yourself is going to feel very uncomfortable. The new version has still got shadow sides, it's still got darkness that might be there, it still has trust. And this is where I feel is the hardest part, is the practice part. You've got to start practicing what you're asking for. So if you want more trustworthy people in your life, you've got to start trusting yourself more, which then makes you trust a stranger usually. Like someone will pop up out of the ground that you really have an attraction towards. Not just love, just an attraction towards. They might be a meditation teacher or a healer, or they might be a doctor that you like, or they might be someone that you can go, that, you know, you meet on a night out. New drinking buddy, whatever. Someone will pop up usually, or something, a situation, scenario will pop up that you have to engage with, and you're there reluctant because this looks very similar maybe to something you've experienced before, but you're trying to trust. So you've got to put into practice this newfound intuition that's kicking in, because all this comes back to the basics of going within, trusting that feeling of, does this feel right? Does it feel wrong? Your GPRS system, you know, the light work, all this light that you've got to, you know, shine in the darkness, is there for us to pull from. So this is where you have to practice what you want, whatever you're asking for, whatever you feel you want. Even if you haven't worked out what you want, you've worked out what you don't want. So now the focus is, okay, out of what I don't want, what does it look like? And you start facing what it looks like. The darkness will start telling you that that is not what you want. You've never had it again. You're not worthy of it. You've never experienced it, for a lot of us. So why do you think that you're going to be able to experience it now? Most of it is based on learning unconditional love. That's like, what does that look like? Because honestly, how many of us can say we've actually witnessed unconditional love on a regular basis from people around us? We don't. We haven't usually. A lot of us haven't, especially when it comes to trauma. Then it's also about what you're ready to put in the box, you know, like compartmentalizing, I suppose, in a positive way, in the sense of, okay, well, I've gone over and over and over this trauma that I've been through. When is it time to just put it in a box? It's not, file it away. It's not anymore in a Pandora's box. It's not scaring me where it's like something's like a jack in the box that's going to jump out. I've actually gone through this with a fine tooth comb. When is it time to put these back in their box, put them in their file, in my subconscious, and then be there and me be okay with that? That's when this is what the practice is. This is what I'm talking about. And it's hard to do. It comes with a lot of practice. It takes as long as it needs to. And when I say that, it could be that it just clicks for you. I always say there's something about the click. I have them often where I know exactly what I want, when I want it, how I want it, but I know it's not going to come until that click in me, that thing that changes in me, really wants it, until that real want, that real need and want has married up and I'm ready, you know. But you find then you stop talking about it once the click has come. You're just doing it, you're being it. And that's a lot about what shadow and dark work, touching on this dark stuff, is about being. Some days are darker than others, some days are harder than others, some days are negative compared to yesterday, but they're honest and true. And when you're honest and true, like I've said throughout my pregnancy, I am difficult through my pregnancy, guys. You guys aren't seeing all of it. My family are being so beautiful and great through this. Some of it is really hard for many different reasons. But overall, I don't apologize I apologize if I've wrongly treated someone, of course, but I don't apologize for where I am and how I'm being, because this is all brand new to me. This is a whole new experience that I have to grasp and connect with in my way. And this is a new person I'm meeting. I don't know this version of Amber. I've never been a mother before. I don't know what Amber as a mother looks like, and she looks so different to Amber the friend, Amber the sister, Amber the daughter, Amber the carefree spirit, Amber the sexy siren, Amber the actress. All of those are, I've accepted all those parts of myself. I'm learning to accept these other parts of myself. And some traumas have come up that I used to have, and some have been new traumas. And also the word trauma like scares us so much. So when we start practicing that, like, this isn't as scary, this word trauma doesn't have to be scary, it's just an honest word for what you've experienced, of why you fear certain things in life when it comes to progressing, succeeding, changing, growing. These things are gonna take a lot of practice, like all the other things in your life took a lot of practice. Like all the other disciplines you mastered, this is one that's just way more personal, and I feel there is no time limit on. And like I said, there is a click, there is a moment of aha, I feel that's it, I'm there, I'm aligned. And it's hard to describe and it's hard to talk about. Also know a lot of stuff with the darker energy and our shadow work and those kind of things. It is hard to articulate, it's hard to understand, you know, but it's something that you know is like, I want to release this, and the way I'm going to release this is I'm going to focus on what raises my vibration, and which is what we come back to, the present stuff of what is present. What is a present moment for me? What do I want in my present moment? What is the present that I'm after? And if we know that every practice is bringing us closer to that, and it's how much you want it. It's how much you truly want it is when the click gets closer to you. That click coming to you gets closer to you, and that's why I say there's no timing on this stuff. There isn't. I have clients that can be in their way into their 50s, and I have young girls as young as, well, the youngest I work with is 16 with parental, you know, help, and younger, but as long as parents are involved, you know. So it's varied. It's very varied, and it takes us all different times, and some of us can do it quickly and some of us can do it slowly. Sometimes we do things quicker, and sometimes it's like, poof, that's gone instantly. So I hope that this video has eased you in to shadow work. It will be something that I will revisit over time, because those 3 things that I've kind of expressed, and because of my baby brain, I can't fully remember what I've kind of titled them as, but I know it was like comparison, changing the word should and could, from should to could, and well, what's the one we've just kind of done? The walking through the fire with like facing, you know, your victimhood and who you are as a victim, inner child, responsible adult, and higher self kind of collaboration with, the ego collaboration, and who you are in those 3 dynamics. And as well as kind of, this isn't the final section, this is the final section in this video, but it's not the final section in your life journey with shadow work. But in this section, what I'm sharing with you is the practice that then has to come forward for you to feel safe, to be trauma-free, to be aware of what your shadow looks like, what your shadow does, what is your shadow in its worst defense, what's your shadow on a good day and on a bad day. It's really knowing. Shadow work is only getting to know who you really are. We would all be wrong to believe, or silly, not wrong, silly to believe that we don't have darker sides to us, that we don't have the ability to be an asshole or a bitch or just difficult and uncompromising, but we also have the divine right to believe that we are beautiful and loving and intelligent and emotionally available and emotionally intelligent. And a lot of this stuff, just to end quickly on, is based on the dysfunction and the lack of knowledge that we've been given to become emotionally intelligent. We've been told to be mentally intelligent. Being mentally intelligent means something so much more to us than anything, when the reality is, what's our emotional intelligence? What's the point of being mentally stimulated and able, but we're unable to understand our fears, which are connected to our emotions and feelings, and therefore how we progress as a human when we're feeling like fucking shit. So I think I did pretty good on that video. I only swore once, I think. Maybe one more, maybe a few more. I am creating a little swear jar because I do want to get out of the habit of swearing in front of the baby. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed the video, and more will be coming. I'm going to try and do them weekly, and I'm putting that on videos because I said the word try, because God loves a trier. And also weekly, I just think gives you more stimulation to tune in. So I look forward to it. Enjoy your new moon. If you want a new moon package, I'll be selling them, so you guys are free to check out. I'll put the link below. I don't know if I'm going to continue the moon packages. I'll be putting it to you on a vote on Instagram. I don't know if I can commit through the rest of my pregnancy, as well as when the baby's newborn in the next season, but at the same time I know you guys love it, so I might do something that's a bit more pre-planned. So let me know when I put it up. Keep an eye out on my Instagram, and yeah, look forward to working with you. If anybody wants to book in for a reading or a spiritual development session, I'm not doing healings whilst I'm pregnant. But if you would like to book in for a reading before the bubble up gets here, please do so over on my website, and I'll also put the link for that below. And love to you all. Bye from us.